welcome to KennyRoy.com. I'm Kenny Roy, and this is the Ask Videomail for the week of December 30th, 2013. Welcome to the site, to you new members, and welcome back to the old. The Ask Videomail is your chance to get your question in character animation or performance answered in a video just like this one, but I need your question if I'm going to answer it, so please send your questions to webmaster@KennyRoy.com. I go through all the questions, and I answer the ones that I think will help the most people. There is no such thing as a stupid question, believe me. If there was, I've asked them all. And it is the best way to get the most out of the site. This is it, the last video mail, last piece of content for 2013. I hope you are as excited as I am for the new year. It's going to be just a stellar time. I can tell. I know it. I can feel it. KennyRoy.com is obviously my passion and my source of inspiration. It's all about you guys, so please continue to send in those awesome Ask Video Mail questions because that's how we drive the content here on the site. Remember, you do get a free day on KennyRoy.com for every single question that you've sent in. Every single time that, or since I mentioned that, there have been people that have sent in 10, 15, 20 questions. And I think you've noticed that we've had a couple questions like in a row because some of the questions are so good, I have to answer them immediately. Those people have earned 10, 15, 20 days free on KennyRoy.com. So it's a way to just kind of give back to the site, but also get a little something for yourself. It also is a thing that I would recommend just in general to do as a student of animation, is to ask a lot of questions. You have to sort of contextualize and simplify your problems down to basically a descriptive question, and that's hard to do. If you can do that effectively, you can communicate with your supervisors and directors and whatever. So just think about that. This is all part of training here on KennyRoy.com is these kinds of things. Okay. Also, again, I have to mention the Anim Gym. It's an amazing resource, not for just the fact that you get a critique if you're a KennyRoy.com member, but just because there is a whole group of people going through the exact same problems on a shot as you at that moment. It's a lot different than, like, say, the 11-second club where everyone has their own ideas. This is something where you can kind of come together and describe, this is the issue I'm having. How are you dealing with this? Oh, well, I'm trying this and that. It's a great way to collaborate, and I'm all about collaboration. So anyway, it's just been a fantastic year. I've really enjoyed all the lectures and all the content that I've done this year. Looking back on it, and just seeing, we've answered some crazy questions and done some really cool lectures. Had a couple special guests. Everything's been really great. So I just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It was a fantastic year. Here's to a amazing 2014 and a lot more great things to come. But we have to get through one more video mail before we do that. So let's take a look at this week's question. Here it is. Hi, Sasha. Cool. Well, they're not really just like settings that you can just click, because the way that CG kind of works, and I'm sure you're aware of this, but it's a review for everybody, is that you have your objects, your geometry, and your geometry is surfaces. Those surfaces have color and surface materials that are driven by shading engines, which say basically how light reflects. And in order for them to do that, you have to have light that can reflect and bounce around the scene. Okay, so if you have not had any experience placing lights or anything like that, then I would definitely suggest you do it like maybe a few beginner tutorials. There's a lot of those on YouTube, but if you want a little bit more organized tutorials and you want the scene files themselves, then I would definitely suggest something like digitaltutors.com. There's amazing tutorials on there, and it comes with all the scene files, so I would look into that. But if you are at the point where you just want to get kind of that demo reel look that it seems like a lot of people have, then I can help you. Let me show you a few things that you can do in Maya and to get that kind of look. But let me first start by saying that there is a sort of look that has been popularized, and it's a good baseline to start with. What it is basically an outdoor lighting setup that has final gathering. And what final gathering is it's bounced light. It's a way to calculate the amount of light that reflects and is colored by surfaces around us. So as you can see, if I get really close to this orange wall, my skin actually takes on an orange hue. But if I'm standing far away from it and just directly underneath these spotlights that are in my office, then I'm only colored by the white light. So that's basically how final gathering, or what final gathering is supposed to be recreating, is that kind of effect where surfaces, they're hit by light and then they become an illuminating surface. Okay, basically, if you're using Maya, you have Mental Ray built in, and so I can show you just a few things that you can use in Mental Ray to kind of get that look. I opened up my old flower sack shot. First thing you want to do is you want to set your render size, and you want to be absolutely certain that your camera is capturing all of the action. So I just defaulted my render size to the default 640-480. I'm going to change my renderable camera to camera 1. And my preset, I'm just going to go HD 1080. Let's not worry about if we're actually going to render full frame HD. We just want this for this resolution gate. Okay, you see this outline right here? That is the renderable area. Now it's not pixel perfect. It's not actually pixel, like to the pixel accurate in Mental Ray, but it's darn close, so that's fine. You can turn on and off the resolution gate by hitting this little button right here. It kind of looks like a blue shaded sphere, and that's the res gate. If you don't want to be distracted by anything else around it, you can actually turn on the mask, and you go under display options and then turn on display gate mask, and you can make it any color you want. And any opacity you want. Okay, you could have a yellow gate mask if you want. I don't know why you'd want that, but you can have it if you want. But normal is to do sort of like a half opaque black one, or a fully opaque black one, just to kind of give you a really super clear idea of exactly what's going to render. Okay, now we have to place lights. You're going to want your outliner kind of just open in general. I'm just going to delete this light that was in there. You kind of just want to have your outliner where you can reach it. I have dual monitors, so this is always over on my second monitor where I can reach it. And I also use display toggle because I have a Wacom, so it's actually very, very, very quick for me to get over. Let me show you. Now I'm on this monitor, and I've dragged this one over to the other monitor. I know you can't see this, but it popped back. Okay, so for me it's instantaneous. So it's going to look a little bit more cumbersome than it actually is for me. Okay. What else? Your attribute editor should be open, so that when you're adjusting attributes, you can make the changes that you need. Okay. Now, also, as you can see here, now we've lost a little bit of the left and right, and you can change that by changing the overscan if you want. If you just, sorry about that. Someday I'm going to remember to fix that. You can change your overscan, just turn it up enough that you get back that those edges, or you can actually use a different fill type, fit the resolution gate. But overscan is just as fast, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Excuse me. So let's create a light. We should really only need one spotlight, because that, like I said, that outdoor feeling, kind of sunlight feeling is very easy to recreate. And if that's what we're trying to mimic, then there is only one light. That would be the sun, right? So I'm going to go to create lights, spotlight, and then I find it's really easy to place my lights by going to the panel and going look through selected, and then use your normal camera controls to pick the right angle. Okay, so I'm going to have a pretty high angle on my light, like this maybe. Okay, and you see this area, this circular area, that's actually what is being hit by the light. That's called my cone angle. So I'm going to turn that up until it's reaching far off of the renderable area. Okay, and the reason I want to reach far off the renderable area is going to add a little bit of render time, but I do want to make sure that all the balanced light that would affect this character is going to affect this character, meaning I don't want to constrict it so tight, even if there's no darkness in the renderable area. I don't want to constrict it all the way down, because then no light is going to be hitting around him and bouncing and hitting him again. I hope that makes sense. So I'm going to make it far off the renderable area. Now again, that does increase the render time, so you just need to know that. For outdoor shadows, the sun actually diffuses the light about 1 inch for every foot that the source is away from the object that is catching the shadow, which means that if I'm touching this wall, that the shadow that is there is perfectly like laser accurate, like laser fine. But if I move away a foot, it actually diffuses 1 inch, basically. Okay, so that's the general formula. Now it doesn't go completely fuzzy. It's actually still, I mean, if you go outside and try this, it's actually still very, very, very sharp. But there is diffusion. So we have to kind of recreate that. And you do that using ray trace shadows and setting the, in the ray trace shadow attributes, the light radius, okay? So this light right now has a radius of 0, which means that all of the shadows are going to be absolutely like laser fine. But if I have to turn up the shadow rays a little bit. I have to turn up the shadow rays a little bit. I did it again. Dang it. Okay. To like 20. And I'm going to make my light radius big enough so that we get a little bit of diffusion on the ground. All right. And the only way you can do this is really figure this out is to experiment, because every single scene is a different size. Okay, so it actually is the radius of these grid units, if you can see these on the ground. So I'm going to say that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, a radius of 5. A radius of 5. There we go. Is a good place to start. And I'm going to render this render view. I like also in my options to turn on auto render region. You see this? That means if I drag a render region, it'll automatically render that region. So it saves me 1 click. But you'd be surprised how many times I render regions. If you right click on any of these buttons, you can choose the camera that you are using. Okay? So I'm going to do a snapshot of camera 1. Okay, and now because I have auto render region on, all I want to do is I want to see the shadow, and a great place to see the shadow is the diffusion of this block object on the wall behind it. So I'm just going to render this region right here. Okay, as you can see, it's really, really, really diffused. That is far too much diffusion. Far too much. So let's just do a radius of 2 instead, and then I'm going to re-render that region. That looks a lot better. That looks way, 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 way better. You don't ever want to have perfectly black shadows either. You always want to have a little bit of information in those shadows that you can bring out in comp later if you want. And also, you want to, if you want this to be outdoor light, then the light can be slightly yellow, just slightly yellow. Okay, you don't want it to be too much because it's not because sunlight is actually white, but just that tiny bit of yellow that I put in is going to make a little bit of difference to the eye. Then, since my shadow color shouldn't ever be completely black, what I like to do is I like to start with blue, okay, or a little bit, just a hair in the purple range, and then bring that value like almost all the way down. So like 0.1. Okay, now what that just did is that kind of made it just a little bit of a complementary light color and shadow color, which adds a little bit of warmth and kind of depth to your scene. Okay, so now I'm going to, you should get very familiar with these two buttons. This one on the left saves the render view, and this one on the right deletes the render view. So I'm going to save this render, and then I'm going to re-render that region just one more time, and then I can use this little slider at the bottom to go back and forth and feel out the shadow a little bit. I know it's probably with compression imperceptible to you guys, but there actually is a little bit of difference, and the second render feels a lot better. It does. Okay, now all that diffusion is going to eat up your render time, but when you are ready to do it for final, you want to turn your shadow rays way up so that you get a nice clean diffuse, soft shadow edge. Okay, I know it's also probably hard to see. Let me zoom in here. Here's the old and here's the new. You see that? See how it's like very pixelated, and then it's like a little bit less pixelated. Okay, you can turn that even higher, but we will wait to turn that higher when we have our final render settings. Okay, you'll see what I mean in a sec. Okay. Also, right now we're rendering at full 1080. So if you go to options, test resolution, I like to go half, like 50%. Okay, and that makes it so that we're just seeing like half resolution, and it saves on render time as well. All right, now we need to turn on Final Gather. To save time, what I would say to you is that when you're ready to do your absolute final render, then to turn on basically the highest quality that you can, that your computer can handle, and then to turn on Final Gathering and see exactly how it's panning out. My Final Gathering was already on, but what that means is, let me render the full frame and I'll talk to you about what this means that it was already on. What this means though is that the amount of okay, and we're back. Sorry about that. Didn't realize it was actually going to eat my computer resources so badly. You can see the bounce light up underneath his belly right here, but there's something wrong with the scene. The problem is that it doesn't seem like that there is anything illuminating this globally, and that's what global illumination is. But global illumination is only going to work if we have either an image-based light or we have an environment that is globally illuminating. A quick way to just get what I just said is to actually just build a sky and make it a bounce light object and let Final Gathering take care of everything. So I'm going to turn off global illumination. Okay, so we're not going to use any GI objects, and I'm going to just build a sky, and it's so simple. This is what I do. This is actually what I do like every time. I just make this gigantic sphere. Okay, and now I'm going to right click on it and assign new material. I'm going to make it a surface shader. I'm going to make it white. Now you can make it slightly blue if you like, because it would represent the sky. That's fine too. And because it's only going to go to the horizon, I'm going to select all the faces in the lower half of it, and I'm going to delete them. Okay. So now we have this sky dome that is kind of illuminating the scene. And let me just show you. I hope my computer doesn't die again. But anyway, so I'm going to save this render view. Let's just look at the corner that contains the character and this sort of hidden corner right here, because it's obviously way too dark in there, right? Let's just render that side. Aha! It's a lot better, right? It looks a lot more like sunlight is out here. And that's really what we needed. That was kind of the last piece. Okay? So I'm going to hit render one more time. Okay? I hope everything doesn't just die on me. If you wanted to turn on things like focal length or depth of field rather and motion blur in Mental Ray, you can as well. It's a little bit easier to use some 2D plugins after the fact, like Real Smart Motion Blur or motion vectors in Nuke, to do like motion blur after the fact, because the render times are so high. And you get a motion vector pass for free whenever you do this. And if what I'm saying is like way too advanced for you, don't worry about it, because you should be worrying about it anyway. Just make sure that your animation is good, and all this other stuff kind of falls into place. But at any rate, if you wanted to, you could enable in Mental Ray options or features rather. Where is motion blur? Oh no, it's actually in quality. You have to turn on motion blur. Oh, and the two differences here. One, no deformation means that only transform nodes, only transformation. So like if you have a sphere and it's moving, then that will be motion blurred. Okay, that's what no deformation means. Full means it actually literally takes, it samples a pixel and says like, okay, where was that exact piece of geometry last frame? And that means that deformations work. You want deformations with characters because like the hand closing, that's a deformation. The head moving, that's a deformation. That's not actually translating. So you'd have to turn on full, okay? But at any rate, you can experiment with that as well, okay? So, but here we go. I'm just going to render this full thing. Hopefully it works nicely. Apologize for this slowdown. Okay, cool. So we're back. All right, now I'm going to show you just one last trick that kind of gives you that little bit of that je ne sais quoi. And this is a thing that I learned long ago, and I've done it literally on every single thing that I've ever worked on. It is that ubiquitous. After Effects. Okay, so you need a compositing program. I know I'm jumping around here, and it's a little bit outside the purview of a normal animation tutorial, but just to be honest, if your demo reel is looking like shabby, then you're going to be in trouble. I know that we kind of as a community, we should, like on the 11-second club, people sometimes get pissed off that it looks like the one that had the best render won the contest and not the best animation, but we are in competition, and everything you can do to get a little bit of a leg up is totally fine in my book. All right, so now we have this outdoor looking render. Things are a lot better in terms of like the quality. There's a lot more bounced light from that sky object that we created. So the last thing I like to do is to sort of simulate the effect of color bloom. And what color bloom is where the light actually bleeds on the film itself. So not in the scene, but on the actual piece of film, a really crisp, like bright object will actually leak a little bit of light onto the film around it. It's a beautiful effect. And the way you do that is, I call it, sorry about that. Just turn this off. And the way you simulate that is, I call it just screen it over itself and blur it. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just duplicate this, and I'm going to go to blur. I'm going to add a fast blur. It really is the fastest blur. I'm going to turn on repeat edge pixels, and I'm going to blur it until it's basically almost completely illegible, right? So somewhere like there. So that was 60. My normal starting point is like 45. So I'm going to start at 45. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into color correction, and I'm going to turn down the saturation, because the light that hits actually does desaturate a little bit, okay? And then the last thing I'm going to do, one more time, color correction. I'm going to go to levels, and I'm going to push the levels such that only really the brightest objects have any color at all. All right, the way you do that is you bring up the black point and you crush the midpoint. And let me just reorder this so that the levels is first, okay? And now, as you notice, that that desat, let me pull that desat off. The desat needs to be much less saturated because we need to, like the levels will up the saturation a lot, okay? So maybe just like that, okay? Now, all we do, oops, columns, modes, there we go. Now we just make this screen, and as you can see, everything is like nice and beautiful and glowing now. I like to make the opacity something like 25-30%, like that. And now here's with it off, here's with it on. Off, on, off, on. It's just that little just kiss of light that really kind of makes all the difference. Now this feels like there's a little bit of atmosphere and a little bit of just kind of like light enveloping everything. It's really, really, really nice. So at any rate, this can be done in any compositing package. Even the composite program called Composite that ships with Maya can do this. Or if you are a little bit more adept at a program like Nuke or After Effects, you probably don't need this tutorial, but that's something that you can add if you haven't been doing that already. Great question. I hope this gives you just a little bit of a head start on rendering your shots for your demo reel. This is kind of like the look that's in vogue right now, is that outdoor sort of bloomy, bright sunlight kind of look. So use it as you will, and good luck getting that job. Let me know if you get that job, Sasha. Okay. Great question. Everyone, please send more questions to webmaster@kennyroy.com. This has been a fantastic year. Really, 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 really thank you from the bottom of my heart. Let's just keep on doing it together. Okay. I'll work hard if you do. Good luck with your animation, and as always, rock on.